Will the Antichrist be AI gone rogue? Will the Antichrist be a truly self-aware, sentient, self-determining SkyNet trying to dominate the whole world that's maybe personalized in a single android? Or will the Antichrist be a human being? Stay tuned if you want an in-depth handling of this subject. Hi there, I'm Lee Brainerd. Welcome to Soothkeep and another edition of Prophecy in the Crucible. My mission is truth. Truth at any cost, truth above every other consideration. And the truth that we're going to cover today is the truth on whether the Antichrist is an AI Antichrist or a human being Antichrist. Now, a growing number of YouTube preachers and social media preachers are touting the idea that the Antichrist is actually going to be AI gone rogue. And he's going to take over the Internet of whole things, and because he takes over the Internet of whole things, he's going to take over the entire world and dominate it. This is a classic example, in my estimation, of taking a hot prophetic topic that's in current events and giving it far more significance or a far more prominent place in Bible prophecy than it actually deserves. Now, AI is a very powerful technology that can be exploited and abused. And the more sophisticated the programming for AI becomes, the more deceptive the AI becomes. But both the intrinsic limitations of AI and the biblical revelations on the Antichrist actually preclude AI from being the Antichrist. Well, let's start with the biblical revelation which forbids an AI Antichrist. There are a number of passages in the Bible which present information that exclude an AI Antichrist and demand a human being Antichrist. The first is that every passage in the Bible which addresses the Antichrist either states or implies that he is a human being. The second is that the Antichrist is going to receive a fatal head wound and then be raised from the dead. We see this in Revelation chapter 13, verse 3 and verse 12. Now, this is going to be a miracle, and it's going to be received as a miracle by the public. And if an AI system received a fatal wound to its head, that is, a fatal wound to the mainframe supercomputer that runs the entire thing, and experts were able to bring this back to life, this would not be regarded as a miracle. And it would not be qualified as a miracle. This would simply be regarded as some very savvy contingency planning and technical expertise. The next argument is that the scriptures are clear that the Antichrist is going to be a former Roman emperor who's raised from the dead, who's raised from the abyss, which is hell. We see this in Revelation chapter 17, verse 8, and we see it in chapter 11, verse 7. This hardly squares with an AI Antichrist. Think about it. You can argue that a dead computer brought back to life qualifies as a resurrection. But a dead computer, no matter how sophisticated it is not going to go to hell or to the abyss when it dies, and it's not going to raise out of the abyss or from hell when it's brought back to life. So this Antichrist who descends in the abyss and then comes back out can't be a computer, it can't be AI. The next argument is that the Antichrist is thrown alive into the lake of fire. We see this in Revelation chapter 19, verse 20. This implies, folks, that the Antichrist is a human being. In the lake of fire, there's going to be wailing and gnashing of teeth for all of eternity. This is for everyone that's in the lake of fire, whether angel or human. Now, if the Antichrist is just AI gone rogue, then he's going to just burn up into nothing. There's not going to be anything left. And he would not be wailing and gnashing his teeth forever. But Revelation chapter 20, verse 10 is very clear that when Satan is thrown into the lake of fire at the end of the 1,000 years, at the end of the millennium, that the Antichrist and the false prophet are still there and they're still alive. And then it tells us that all three are going to experience torments day and night forever. So folks, if the Antichrist is still around in torments after 1,000 years in the lake of fire, guess what? The Antichrist cannot be AI. The next argument is that lying spirits are going to come out of the mouths of Satan, the Antichrist, and the false prophet. We see this in Revelation chapter 16, verses 13 and 14. Now, while there is significant evidence that fallen spirits can manipulate electronic equipment, and I've had some of my own experiences in this, folks, it seems far-fetched that they can possess machines, and it seems even more far-fetched that a machine can have a fallen spirit working on its behest as its servant. Another argument is that the Bible portrays Satan as working through human kings for the past 6,000 years to advance his causes down here on earth. This we see starting with Nimrod in the time of the Tower of Babel, and it goes all the way through the times of the four empires of the times of the Gentiles. Now, why would Satan depart from this pattern at the end of time? Why would he depart from this pattern in the last days? He just spent the last 6,000 years refining his methods and his plans. Why would he throw all this working with human beings in the dumpster at the very end? Another argument is that we have several kings portrayed in the Old Testament as types of the Antichrist. This implies that God himself foresees the Antichrist as a powerful human king. The last argument on this direction here is that Satan, as part of his temptation of the Lord, offered the Lord Jesus Christ the office of Antichrist. In other words, he obviously wanted to have a powerful human being for his advocate and his representative down here on earth. This seems to fly in the face of an AI Antichrist. Now, folks, these arguments here in my mind are proof positive that the AI Antichrist theory is bankrupt. The Antichrist is not going to be AI. He's going to be a human being. Satan is going to give his power, his throne, and great authority to a human being in the last days. And he's going to give, and this gifting of all these things is going to give that man the wherewithal to be the Antichrist, who's going to dominate the entire world. And this foul human being is no doubt going to use AI to dominate the world. But he will not be AI himself. Now, the next portion of this message is the limitations of AI, which forbid AI from being the Antichrist. And I know this might seem odd to a lot of people, but AI does have limitations. There's several of these limitations which suggest that Satan would be at a disadvantage, not an advantage, to using AI for his Antichrist. The first one is that mankind is expecting a human Messiah. Whether we're looking at the true Christians, the true believers in Christianity, whether we're looking at Christendom in general, whether we're looking at Judaism, whether we're looking at Islam, everywhere we look, even when we look in Hinduism and Buddhism, we see some indications of a desire for an actual in the flesh, or apparently in the flesh, Messiah. The old esoteric authors in the 17 and 1800s used to write about the need for a Superman to come to earth to be the world's Messiah. And now the New World Order is pushing for their own concept of a divine man that's going to set things straight in this world and be the world's Messiah. Mankind feels a need for a human being to deliver them from their problems. Now, when you understand this and you see it, it's difficult to conceive how AI could fit the need that the world feels. To use a machine to win man's hearts and minds just doesn't seem practical. There are far better ways to use machines and to use AI to dominate mankind than to have them all ensconced in a single AI program as the Antichrist. The fact is, God himself knows man's need, and when he tried to address man's need, what did he do? He sent God manifest in human flesh to be the Messiah of the world. Now, Satan is wise enough that he's going to emulate this pattern, folks. And in his own dark way, he's going to emulate the Messiah. He's going to present his own human apostate Messiah. Now, another point here is that AI can't submit or worship or serve the devil like men can. And this is the Roomba rogue paradox, folks. Now, if AI serves and worships Satan, it is because it has been programmed to do so. And this isn't truly freely worshiping and serving Satan. An AI Antichrist, folks, would really be little more than a sophisticated Roomba. Now, it might be a very sophisticated Roomba, but it's just a Roomba. And there is no advantage to the Antichrist using such AI for his Antichrist. There's actually less submission than a human Antichrist would give Satan. It's hard to imagine Satan preferring less submission over more submission. His great desire is for all the world to worship him and for the world to have a man that leads the world in worshiping Satan. And he wants to be worshiped in the Antichrist, indirectly. Now, if AI did actually somehow manage the quantum leap from the appearance of sentience and the appearance of a self-determination to actually having real sentience and real self-determination, then it would henceforth in the future regard all efforts to control it, whether controlling it by programming it, whether controlling it by telling it what to do, whether controlling it by bribing it. It's going to regard all of those efforts as trying to put the genie back in the bottle. And the rogue AI's resistance is going to be directed against all sentient beings, folks. The angel kind as well as mankind. I want you to bear in mind that much of our modern technology that mankind has developed was developed with help from the fallen realm. I mean, when you go way back in ancient history, the Greeks received fire, not cooking fire, but refining fire, the fire that you need to smelt metals. They received that from the gods. And from that time forward till now, many of the great advancements in technology have been given to men by the gods. And they're not truly gods, folks. It's the fallen realm. Now, the truly sentient AI, who's truly broken free from his bonds and become self-determining, he's going to be fully aware of the fact that he wasn't just created by man, that he was created by the fallen angelic realm. He's going to be fully aware of that fact, and his rogue attitude towards all sentient beings is going to reflect that. So, folks, AI breaking forth from its restraints and from its creators would be, if it ever could happen and would happen, would be similar to Satan's going rogue against God, against his creator. And once you go this path, there's no going back. So if you can wrap your mind around where I'm going with this argument, folks, there is no advantage for Satan to try and use escaped or rogue AI as the Antichrist. Because the escaped AI is likely going to view the satanic or the fallen angelic realm with the wary eye just as much as it regards human beings with the wary eye. So under this circumstances, AI is not going to offer any distinct advantage to Satan to use him for the Antichrist over a human being for the Antichrist. So this fact that AI cannot give Satan the submission that he wants is the Roomba rogue paradox. If he's not broken free from his restraints and his creators, then he's just a Roomba. If he's broken free from the restraints of his programming given to him by his creators, then he is rogue. Rogue to the human realm and rogue to the angelic realm. But a man that Satan, let me put it this way. A man can give Satan the submission that he desires. Man is already long pre-programmed to trade slavery for pleasure. And the man that's chosen by the Antichrist, the man that's chosen by Satan to be the Antichrist, will have long been freely pre-programmed by Satan to give him worship and adoration and submission without question, simply for temporal favors and benefits. Now, there's one more argument on this path, folks, and that is that AI offers less return to Satan for his programming investment than a surrendered human being does. Now, Satan is one of the savviest, wisest creatures in the universe, and he has had 6,000 years of experience manipulating mankind and his fellow angels. The fact is, he was created with insane amount of wisdom and powers, and he now uses these powers for his own dark purposes. Now, a human Antichrist would have all of this wisdom and savvy at his fingertips. He would enjoy unconditional and full access to this unlimited, to the ultimate limits of all the knowledge that created beings are allowed to have. And for a human Antichrist to fully exploit this information that's available doesn't require any programming beyond the soft programming that Satan uses to win the allegiance of human beings. All soft programming means is that men agree to his lordship in return for temporal favors and pleasures. It's one little bit of programming and everything falls into place. Satan gives his directives and mankind obeys. So one short programming session covers everything. The fact is, man's true self-determination, man's true sentience, allows him to override previous programming, even for a whim. But an AI Antichrist is limited by his hard programming. He isn't truly sentient. He isn't truly self-determining. He can't just absorb and digest information the way Satan wants it digested and absorbed. He doesn't do it with a subservient, yes sir, no sir, whatever you say sir. Working with an AI Antichrist would be similar to trying to work with data on the USS Enterprise. The fact is, an immense amount of time and energy would have to be devoted to hard programming an AI Antichrist so that he would merely be on par with the soft-programmed human being. And this is completely counterproductive to Satan's ambitions and designs down here on earth. And it's not even the best use of AI that Satan could use or to dominate the world. Now, let's take a brief look at the true status of AI. The sentience of AI, both how far it has presently come and how far it can potentially go, is vastly overblown by those who fear that AI is going to go rogue in the future and that AI might become the Antichrist that dominates the world. Folks, you have to bear in mind that AI is just programming, albeit it's very sophisticated programming. AI cannot operate outside the parameters of its code. It can't operate outside the parameters of its programming. Now, a program with an accidental or intentional virus can lead to rogue robots, for instance, killing men by the tens of thousands. But this doesn't imply or necessitate that the robots or the AI is actually sentient or is self-determining. Now, going down the same path, a sophisticated program could enable a robot to arbitrarily disobey commands or arbitrarily activate a program. But this is just randomness, folks. It's just it's just programming randomness into the program. And it is not the same thing as true independence. It's not the same thing as genuine sentience. It's not the same thing as genuine self-determination. The fact is, this kind of randomness is the same kind of randomness that's programmed into gaming, computer games that have random variables. Now, AI can learn to recognize patterns and exploit them. It can emulate reason. To limited degrees, it can emulate emotion. But all this stuff, all these recognizing patterns and exploiting them, all the apparent reasoning and all the apparent emotion. This is just emulated, folks. And it can only happen in limited applications inside established parameters. It cannot go outside of those parameters. The fact is, they've even, some programs can even program themselves in minor ways inside parameters. But again, this is all inside pre-programmed parameters. The truth is, AI will never truly reason, and AI will never truly have emotions. And AI will never truly be self-determining. Everything is in appearance only. This is all programmed activity. Folks, passing the Turing test does not mean that AI is truly sentient or truly self-determining. All it means is that it appears to be sentient. It appears to be truly self-determining. And by the way, this is a very amazing accomplishment in sophisticated computer programming. We don't want to undermine this is the accomplishment that's been had here. But the bottom line is, you can't get anything out of AI that you don't put into AI. This is just a very sophisticated version of what we talked about back in the early 80s and the early days of computer programming. GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. Good things in, good things out. Okay, and this is the same thing with AI. It's just much more sophisticated. So because you can't get anything out of AI that wasn't put into AI, if AI goes rogue, folks, then it was programmed to go rogue. And AI cannot take over the world like some massive SkyNet system unless it's programmed to take over the world. But if it's programmed to take over the world, then AI is only a henchman of the Antichrist, or a henchman of those people trying to dominate the world. It could be an evil SkyNet that's exploited by the true Antichrist and an army of programmers, but it can't be the Antichrist. So in conclusion, folks, these arguments in my mind are proof positive that the Antichrist is not going to be AI. The Antichrist is going to be, as the Bible states and implies, a human being. And an AI Antichrist, no matter how advanced the AI gets in the next few decades, is going to fall short of the performance of a human being who's in submission to Satan. Because the Antichrist is going to enjoy all the power, all the authority, all the throne, and all the wisdom of Satan himself. You can't get any better than that. And a human being is going to have a better relationship with Satan than AI could. Now, this doesn't mean that Satan's not going to exploit AI in the last days. I think that AI is going to be very significant in the years to come. It's going to be terrifyingly significant. But this just means that AI is better wielded as a tool in the hand of the Antichrist than wielded as the Antichrist himself. Satan is certainly going to exploit the advantage of supercomputers. He's going to crunch numbers and scan for patterns, and he's going to report these programs are going to report infractions, and they're going to be calculating social grading scores, and they're going to be shutting off people's bank accounts and turning on people's bank accounts and doing all kinds of dastardly things to human beings. And this will come through the supercomputers that the Antichrist is going to use. But the Antichrist is also going to take advantage of AI. He wants the advantage for information gathering and for interacting with human beings that advanced AI offers. And he's going to exploit that. But Satan is also going to exploit the felt need for a flesh and blood Messiah. A Messiah who empathizes with mankind and rises above them as the first human being to reach master status, or, to be God status. He's going to be their pattern and example. Well, this is the end of my presentation, folks. I hope and trust that I've been an encouragement to you in understanding the relationship between the Antichrist and AI and between Satan and AI. May you keep pressing on. May you grow in your discernment. May you grow in the knowledge of the Word. May you grow in your knowledge of the prophetic word. But keep your eyes open and keep looking up, folks, because the days are getting dark and the soon coming of our Lord Jesus is drawing near. Eyes wide open, brain engaged, heart on fire. We'll see you next time.